gamers, and welcome to another episode of the Cuddlepunk podcast. I am your host, the dumbest girl alive, Veronika Vexed. With me today, we got a little bit something different for you guys today. We have somebody who, like myself, is not quite a part of the scene, but is definitely scene adjacent. You know him as a photographer all around the greater Chicago area. You know him as the host of the Shot for Shot pod. You know him from being just the best dad in the world on Twitter. Kodak Chris is here with us today. Chris, how you doing, man?
Good. How you doing? Thank you. Shout out.
I've been doing all right.
Shout out to all the dads.
Shout out to all of the scene dads out there.
Yeah.
So me and all of the rest of the homies who know you, we mostly know you as a concert photographer. I know you do other stuff as well. Is concert photography what you always wanted to shoot?
Yeah. So actually, I kind of stumbled on photography, to be honest with you. Like, didn't even really know that I wanted to do photography, like, for a career until I took pictures at my first concert. So it was just one of those like things that I just like stumbled on. I went to a concert. I bought a camera just to like take pictures of my kids and stuff. And then I was like, oh, I don't want to leave my camera in the car. Like, we live in Chicago. So I was like, let me bring it in the venue. And they let me bring it in the venue. And then I was like, oh, let me snap some pictures. And they let me snap some pictures. And then after I saw that, I was just like, you know what? Yeah, I think I want to do this. So
what venue were you at that was letting you bring the camera in? I know you usually need like a pass or something like that for like an actual digital.
it was the Wire out there in Berwyn. RIP to the Wire. But yeah, it was super chill. This was back in like 2016 too. So I was just like, the security was like, yeah, like that's fine. Like, you could just bring it in. Because it wasn't like a super professional camera. It was like a smaller DSLR, like a little crop sensor, but he was just like, yeah, like that's no problem, no worries. But yeah, it was super dope.
So photography wasn't even like something that you had initially intended on being a career. It was just something that you fell into because of your kids.
Yeah, literally just fell into it because of my kids. Like, I probably wouldn't even had a camera if I didn't have kids. And I was like, I bought a camera, like, and I was like, oh, it's something that's like cool and like a hobby wise. I've always kind of been into it, but I was like, well, my dad had a nice camera growing up, so I'm gonna buy a nice camera from like my family and stuff. And then I was like, maybe if I get good at it, like I can do like maybe some portraits or stuff for like family and friends, but never to this point that I'm doing it now.
After that first show, what ended up being like your next steps for getting into photography? Like, once you realized this was something that you wanted to do, what was the next show that you were like intentionally shooting at?
Oh man, I feel like after that, because I took pictures pretty much of every act that played that show. And then I had met a couple of the openers and sent them photos. So then I was just like, any show that I wanted to go to, like any pop punk show I wanted to go to, I would just message every single band and just like, hey, like, my name's Chris, like, I'm coming through like the concert or whatever. Or if it was like a smaller show where I could bring my camera in, I would just buy tickets to the shows and take pictures of the set and then hit them up afterwards and be like, hey, like, I got photos. And they'd be like, oh yeah, can we post them? And then I just kind of like let it snowball from there until finally people started to like notice me a little bit. And then like my big like break pretty much was when I took my camera to, what was it, Warp Tour 2016? I took it to like Warp Tour 2016, and um I took pictures from the crowd, and I took pictures of real friends from the crowd. So I took some of like my favorite shots, still some of my favorite shots to this day, real friends from the crowd. And I would like post them up on Twitter and stuff like that. And then I saw like Dan had like saw him and like retweeted them, and he was just like, yo, like, these pictures are super dope. And I was like, hey, like, I got more, like, if you want. And I like sent them the link and they posted them. And after that, I just kind of like kept going from there. And I was just like, oh yeah, I got to keep doing this. So I just kept hitting up bands and was like, hey, these are pictures I took of real friends, blah, blah, blah. Like, I do photography. and just kept going.
Real Friends in 2016. What other, like, does life get better than that moment? I don't think it does.
Yeah, that was like my first like full circle moment, because I started listening to Real Friends probably like 2013 or something like that. I had saw them open up for uh the Wonder Years on their
So
Greatest
we're talking
Generations
like
tour.
Put Yourself Back Together EP. Like they didn't have an album
Yeah,
out.
yeah, didn't have an album out, nothing. And I was like, I rolled up with some homies, and the only band I knew on the bill was the Wonder Years. Well, it was the Wonder Years, Real Friends, Citizen, Modern Baseball, and I think it was like Fireworks or something like that. I
I'll
can't
kill
remember the
you. I'll
last
kill
band.
you where you stand, you
Yeah, yeah,
bastard.
but it was such a crazy stack like lineup. Just even looking back at it now, it's just ridiculous that I went to that concert. And that was the first time I heard Real Friends. But after that, I just got like addicted to their music, and once I had that and they posted my photos and stuff like that, I was just like, yeah, this is crazy. It's just a different type of feeling to have your work acknowledged like that. So I just kept chasing that high.
I'm almost nervous to ask, what are your thoughts on Real Friends post Dan leaving?
Well, then that's the homie. That's the homie for sure. So I have that aspect of it. Um, I like Real Friends is still Real Friends because of the songwriting, but I don't feel like they have had that hit to separate them from the old Real Friends yet. Like I can listen to new Real Friends songs and like them, but I just can't listen to old Real Friend songs with the new singer. Like he's great. He's an amazing singer, but it just feels like a cover band to me. I love him though, but I mean, I just want them to have like that breakout like hits of like they newer stuff, which I mean, they newer stuff is good too. Like the songwriting is still Real Friends. So the songwriting and everything is still there. Like I still listen to the new Real Friends, but that old Real Friends, the Sleepy Eyes and Bony Knees, like it just hits different. It just hits different every
It's
time.
different. It's
Yeah.
100% different. Nah, that was a very diplomatic answer that you gave right there. That was a very politician answer that you gave
Yeah,
right there,
very
Chris.
political. Yeah.
You're talking about bringing in like the tiny DSLR, and then I imagine that you got like a better camera when you had like been doing it for a while. Gearheads are such a thing in music. Like I could talk with like Dean from Meridia and I know nothing about gear. I know he could absolutely talk my ear off about that shit. I know there's a ton of other people who could. How much does gear actually matter in terms of photography? Which I know is like a broad question.
Oh yeah, no, it's a lovely question because we always talking about this. I feel like in the community, so it's just to me, gear doesn't matter until it does matter. So, basically, that same DSLR, that Nikon D5500 that I had back in 2016, when I took pictures, at my very first concert, that is the same camera that I had when I did my last tour with Hot Mulligan, Belmont, Kayak Jones, like Fredo Disco. Like that's the same exact camera that I had. So I had that camera for from 2016 all the way up. I mean, I brought my camera in 2015. So I had it from 2015 all the way up until 2020. I didn't upgrade until 2020. So any of those work pre 2020, like the summer of 2020, that was all that little crop sensor camera. And granted, yes, I did have limitations. It was hard trying to get those shots. Like I had to work for every single shot that I got, but at the same time, I feel like it made me a better photographer because once I got the gear and then I upgraded to like the mirrorless Z6 and stuff like that, it was just like night and day for me. So yeah, gear doesn't matter until it does. So once you kind of figure out what you do like, what you don't like, what type of photography you want to do, gear really doesn't matter. The biggest thing is just capturing those images to me.
I mean, it's the same thing with anything, with like music in general, like any aspect of
Oh
DIY.
yeah.
It really, the gear doesn't matter until it does. Like, I don't know, Mountain Goats or whatever. Like, they're like, All Hail West Texas was an acoustic guitar and an 8-track player. And
Yeah.
now it's like one of the biggest indie records in the world. It really is just like you can do it with a small amount that you have. And
Yep.
then once eventually you get to the point where you want to start improving and you can start improving, that's when you build your new setup up.
Right. Like it's like, yeah, you can't imagine like Blink 182 selling out stadiums and they using like a guitar from Walmart and like a amp and stuff like that that's like $100 that they bought used. Like you can't imagine doing stuff like that on that level. So like, yeah, it doesn't matter until it matters. But I feel like the gap, like in between, people don't they expect like to just buy the best stuff and just automatically be good. But you can buy the best stuff. I mean, I talk like a lot of smack now. I used to didn't talk as much smack, but I was in the pit. Like I used to be super intimidated by people with a big full frame cameras and all the nicest gear and all the nicest lenses. And it's like y'all didn't spend like $4,000 or $5,000 worth of money on y'all gear. And I'm like, and I'm sitting here with my little crop sensor and my little $150 lens, and I'm taking better pictures than y'all. So it was just like at the end of the day, you got to do what you got to do to get to where you want to get to. So,
And now instead of using that energy to like potentially like intimidate newcomers, you and I both just use that energy to intimidate Hannah on Twitter into like actually doing shit. She's gonna
yeah.
kill me. She's gonna
Uh,
murder me for
yep,
making that joke.
yep,
But I had to bring it up
absolutely.
because it's you.
Yep, I always have to. I'm always down to bully photographers. To do better though, not in a bad way.
Right.
To like want more and do better for themselves. So like, soon as y'all started talking smack, I jump right in. Like I'm gonna talk smack right with you.
Absolutely, man. The first time we met, I think, was at Emo Night LA at Sub T. I have actually like shot like the tiniest little thing at Sub T. I had an ex who I shot who was working for a band where I just like shot little shit on my iPhone for that. But most of the time that you're at Sub T is for emo night, I would imagine.
Mhm.
First of every month, by the way, at Sub T. It's a amazing. You should all absolutely go if you're in Chicago. How does shooting
100%.
a club night differ from shooting a regular concert?
Um, I feel like the club night is different because it's not more so like artist focused. It's just more so you're focusing on the environment. So like with a concert, yes, you still want to focus on the environment, which a lot of people don't for some reason. They only focus on the artist, which I feel like that's just like you need to focus on the environment. But with a event, it's just like I'm capturing everything in the room and I want to tell like the whole story of the night. So my everything with my image, I just always want to make people jealous that they missed out on whatever event I'm taking pictures of. So I feel like if you don't look at my pictures and be like, damn, I wish I was there, I didn't do good enough. So yeah, I just make everybody have the most fun, make people be comfortable. I'm in the mix with everybody. Like I'm in the pit while everybody's going crazy. I'm in there with my camera too and cracking jokes and smiling. That's how I get all my good images. So I just love that aspect of it compared to like, if I'm shooting a show, it's more like calculated. It's more like, okay, I need to make sure I get these safety shots or I want to try to something a little different. But with a club thing, it's just kind of like you don't know what's gonna happen at any moment, so you just got to kind of be ready at any time.
Maud, Lizzie, Allie, Brian, who's your favorite to shoot?
Honestly, all of them have so much energy. Like
They
all of
do.
them have so much energy. I love shooting Maud. Like Maud is always serving every time she's on DJ. So like, and then Lizzie is just like such like a little energizer bunny and is jumping around the whole entire time. So it's just like so fun. I know if I get Brian, I'm always like in his face because he does like videography and stuff, and I'm always in his face like trying to catch him, and he just tries to look cool for the camera sometimes, which he does look cool for the camera. But
But it's also
it's
just fun to
just
mess with Brian.
Yeah, it's just always fun to mess with Brian. I gotta mess with Brian anytime I'm with him. So,
And then Allie's just mom. She's just mom,
oh
making sure
yeah,
everybody's like having so much fun.
she is the like one of the sweetest people I've ever met in my life, and just like her energy that she exudes is just great. So like I always just want to catch her smiling and just having a good time and like being in the mood. And it's just always like I want everybody to feel that energy radiating from the pictures that I take of her.
Absolutely. No, Allie's the fucking best. I'm moving with her to LA at the end of May. We're
Oh
gonna be
shit.
discussing that once she gets back from the Disney tour.
I was about to say the Disney tour. Yeah, she big time
That's
now.
wrapping up. I miss my friend, man. I want her. I'm
Yeah.
happy for her. I'm so happy for her, but I want my friend back.
Oh yeah.
You have a podcast of your own now, the Shot for Shot Pod. Is it you and is Autumn on every episode?
Yeah, Autumn's a co-host.
So what's it like being in the podcast game? It's obviously just like fun and rainbows all the time. You're just like
Uh,
talking to people, right?
yeah, I hate my life. Actually,
Why did we decide to do
yeah,
this?
yeah. Like, I honestly, yeah, it's not as easy as like people would think. Like it's not easy if you want it to be good. If you want to just get on here and just talk, I mean, anybody can do that. But if you want to get on here and talk and actually make good content that people want to consume, it's difficult. Even though like with the podcast, like mine is pretty chill. And like even like this is pretty chill, but we still have to prep and set things up so that everything's run smoothly so it looks like it's as chill as we're making it seem, if that makes sense. So it's just like
No,
it's
100%.
so much work that goes into it to make it look like it's easy.
And I feel like what a lot of people don't know is like a lot of the like more celebrity centric podcasts like Office Ladies or like any of the like celebrities like recapping those shows or just like celebrities talking and stuff. Their job is to show up and talk. Like they have
Yeah.
like all of that other stuff handled for them. Whereas with you and I, it's a one person, two people in
Yeah.
your case, but like we're doing all the editing, we're doing all of the like getting the people to bring on, we're doing all of the segments and everything.
Yeah, don't even get me started on the editing. I'm like, see, I'm a photographer, so I can edit video, but editing video is just so tedious and
It
just
really
I'm
is.
just like, oh my God. And I'm going in and like trying to fix the audio so it sounds good and trying to separate the audio tracks, fix them all up, then sync the audio tracks back together and just doing stuff in such a convoluted way that I'm just like, oh my God, I don't know why I even started doing this. So like me and Autumn were like talking and I was just like, as soon as we start making money from this pod, we are immediately hiring like a producer
Mm-hmm.
and somebody to like edit this shit. And I'm like, I don't care if we don't make $0. As long as I don't have to do the work and you don't have to do the work, that's perfectly fine with me.
I think this goes into another question that I had. You, as I said at the beginning of this when I was introducing you, you and I were in the scene, but I would qualify us more as like scene adjacent in that like we're
Mm.
not in bands. We're just
Yeah.
out here like trying to support the people that we care about with like the stuff that we do.
Mm.
Um can it be hard for you to like feel like appreciation for the stuff that you're doing sometimes because a lot I feel like I know it's a weird question, I know, but it's sometimes it can feel like all of the focus it because we're purposely putting the focus on the bands and everything. It sometimes doesn't feel as though, or at least it could, that we are getting like the appreciation that we kind of deserve for like we're putting a lot of effort into this shit.
Yeah, no, I definitely I know exactly what you're talking about because it's just like it's like we're the ones that like keep it alive pretty much. Like it's just like back in the day when you think of like street teams and stuff like that. Like people don't realize, well, now we have social media, but you know, me telling my age, back in the day before social media, how it is now, we had street teams. So people would be like, oh, this is a band. Well, this is our Chicago street team. And we email people and like instead of having like mods on Discord, those mods were pretty much the leaders of those street teams. So they would go out and put flyers, posters, stickers, like all that type of stuff. So I feel like as a photographer, I have been blessed because um I have more of a outgoing personality than most. So I'm very vocal all the time and I'm always running my mouth, unfortunately. So that's why I made a podcast too. But it's just one of those things where I'm like, I'm always mixed in a circle and I'm always just around people. So I get a lot of respect from like the musicians themselves, which until made like fans started to notice who I was because they're like, okay, why are they so cool with this dude? Or like, why does this, or they're starting to see the pictures that I take of their favorite artists. And then they're like, oh my God, they saving them as they picture background. And then they getting to meet me and all that type of stuff. So I've always tried to keep that like open, like door policy almost and like open mindedness when it comes to that. So it's just like, I've definitely been blessed with that. But I feel like a lot of people that keep the scene alive don't get as much credit as they should. And it's one of those things like we take a back seat and I just do it for we do it because at the end of the day we're fans. We're fans and we love what we do. So it's not that we do it for the accolades, but it's nice to feel appreciated, you know?
Absolutely. No, totally. This has been, I would say, a really great year for you in terms of what you've been able to accomplish with your photography. It's also been, you've been struggling this year, my guy.
Yeah.
Not to bring
Yes.
up like the bad memories and everything. I know it's still an ongoing thing. Would you mind going into a little bit of what you've been going through right now and how it's affected the
Yeah.
stuff you're doing?
Yeah, it's crazy. So like this was my first year back to being full-time freelance. So I just jumped head first into everything like at the beginning of the year. And it's been a good year for me. I've done a lot of stuff. I've like shot a lot of bands, made a lot of connections, all these types of things. And then back in July, actually on my way to the infamous Paramore concert, a couple days before that, my retina and my eye started to detach. And I didn't know it was detaching, but like just for people that know, like I used to be in the medical field. Like I went to nursing school and went to be an EMT, all that type of stuff. So I was like, I think my retina is detaching. And I was like, but I don't know. I'm like, I just see the flashing light. I was like, maybe the sun is hitting my eye weird or something. And then it just kept doing it. And I was like, all right, I need to go to the emergency room. But it was like the day before the Paramore concert. And I was like, no, I got to drive to Milwaukee tomorrow. And I got to surprise Aubree with these tickets. And like, I planned it all out. So I was like, I know if I go, they're going to tell me I can't go or I got to go into emergency surgery. So I was just like, fuck it. Like, we out here. So on my way to Milwaukee, my retina like fully detached. So I couldn't even see anything out of my right eye. I could only see like out the top corner of my eye. So that whole entire time I drove to Milwaukee, we were on stage, like all of that type of stuff. Like I was only seeing out of one eye. So I was just like, I didn't even want to tell anybody what was going on. Like even after the fact, like even after I went to like the eye doctor and they yelled at me for waiting so long and all that stuff. Like I had to get two different procedures done to retouch my retina, and I still have to get another procedure done on my other eye so it doesn't detach once this one is fully healed. So that was in July, and I'm still dealing with it. So yeah, it's been a rough year.
I feel like that moment, as horrible as it has been, I feel like that was an opportunity for you to like really see the appreciation that people do have for you. Because when you posted like that GoFundMe link, it was just going up and up and up every single time that I checked it. Like the people came out for Kodak
Yeah,
Chris at that moment.
I'm I'm like still to this day, like, I ain't gonna lie, like I get emotional thinking about it because I didn't even want to post the GoFundMe at all. Like I didn't want to do any of that. Like my sister and my friend Yads, they both were like, no, like you do all of this stuff for other people, you help out other people, like you'll
Taylor
get the
was
shirt
telling
off
me
your
about
back.
that. I don't know if you know this. Taylor and I used to work together at Broadway in Chicago.
Yeah, yeah, she was telling me. And she was just like, she always gets mad when she'll like bring me up to somebody or she'll see me interacting with people online and she'd come to me and she'd be like, what the fuck is this? And I'd be like, oh, like that's the homie. And she like, no, that's my homie. Like, this is my old coworker. And I was just like, well, they're cool. So now we're cool. And she was just like, can you please stop knowing people that I know? So it's just always funny as
Come out to more shows, Taylor. That might help out the situation.
I
You can
know,
know
yeah.
everybody that we know.
Yeah, literally. So I'm like, yeah. So she was like, she was just telling me, like, no, like, I didn't want to post about it. I didn't want to tell anybody about it. Like, especially Aubree was getting so much love for like being on stage and everything. Like, I was like, I'm not taking no spotlight away from her. Like, I'm letting her get all the love, all the appreciation, all the spotlight, even though she yelled at me too for not going and getting my eye checked out. But I was like, it is what it is. Like I'll be okay. But she was just like, why wouldn't you say anything? And I was just like, because it wasn't about me, it was about you. But it was just one of those things, like they made the GoFundMe and posted it up, and instantly people were just like sharing it and showing so much love. And I was just like, I'm still taken aback. And like even now when I'm back out to shooting shows and stuff like that, like people coming up to me asking me about my eye, asking me about the kids, asking me how I've been like hanging in there, like that shit means so much to me because I'm like, I don't even, I don't know, it's weird like getting that praise and getting that like appreciation like as a human, you feel me? Like it just as a normal person, it's just like weird. And for people to actually like that you may talk to every day, that you don't talk to, that just know you from certain things, and they're like showing that love and like helping you out is just, it's just crazy. I don't even have words for it.
It's the coolest shit in the world. I think one of
Yeah.
the reasons why people wanted to support you so much is not just because of everything that you've done for the scene and for all these bands. You have such a deeply pure love for your daughter Aubree, and it shows with the story of that trip to Milwaukee. When we come back, Kodak Chris is going to fill us in on everything that happened at that Faithful
Oh yeah.
Paramore concert in Milwaukee this summer. We'll be right back with more of the Cuddlepunk podcast. Today's episode is sponsored once again by the Cuddlepunk Patreon. I've been doing these videos for 2 years, and while I absolutely love it, I've only just started making money from it, and it's not that much money at all. If you want to help make sure I can keep making these videos and podcasts, then head on over to patreon.com/thecuddlepunk podcast to become a member today. $3 a month gets you a special shout out in each episode, and $5 a month gets you the shout out plus access to episodes 1 day early. Special thanks to my current patrons, Susan, Claire, Gail Mack, Tara Hallett, and Creighton Budress. Once again, that's patreon.com/thecuddlepunk podcast. And now, back to the show. Welcome back to the Cuddlepunk podcast. I am your host, Veronika Vexed. With me today is Kodak Chris. Chris is known for his photography, but he is also known as much as a father. He loves his 2 kids so goddamn much. Especially, we are all aware of how much he loves his daughter Aubree, to the point where he managed to get her not only a special moment with one of her favorite bands, but also a pretty large moment of virality. Chris, tell us the story of the Milwaukee Paramore show.
Oh man. Basically we'll jump straight into it. My friend, Brandon, he was like, he hit me up and he was just like, he just texted me and he was just like, hey bro, like call me when you get a second. And I was like, all right, cool. So I called him and he was just like, hey, like, I don't know if you've been paying attention to my social media and stuff, but I'm on tour with the band called Paramore. I don't know if you heard of them or not. And I was just like, shut the fuck up. And he
Shut
was
the
just
fuck
like,
up.
yeah. So he was
I
like,
rescind my previous statement. There are 3 things that Kodak Chris is known for: photography, his loving his kids, and simping for Haley Williams on Twitter.
absolutely 100%. 100%. So I was like, So he was driving the Good Die Young truck, and he was just like, hey, like, I try to help out my homies as much as possible. Like, he said, I tried to see if I can get you a photo pass, but I couldn't get you a photo pass, but I could get you tickets, to the show or whatever. I can get you 3 tickets to the show. That way you can bring your kids. And I was like, well, fuck the photo pass. Like, the fact that I can take my kids, like, absolutely. Like, that means more than a photo pass to me. So I was like, all right, I'm like, I'm gonna go. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna surprise Aubree. And I would have took my son, but he just too lit sometimes. So I was just like, I don't know, for his first concert, me taking him to, if I would have took him to that concert, I don't know what would have happened. He probably would have did a backflip on stage or something.
Was Genesis still on tour at that point, or was it Linda Linda's that had taken over at that point?
It was Linda Linda's.
I saw them in
Yes,
Boston over the summer when I saw
so
Paramore the
good.
first time this summer. They're unreal.
Ridiculously good. And they all so young too. That's the crazy part. Like, ridiculously good. So yeah, so we went, so I had my sister come out with me, and I was just like, hey, yo, like, we gonna surprise her. So I had her make a sign for Aubree, and it was like, ain't it fun? This is my first Paramore show and stuff like that. So I told Aubree that, hey, like, we're gonna have a daddy daughter day. Like, I gotta drop her aunt off in Milwaukee because she's going to like a convention or whatever. And we'll just like find some stuff to do in Milwaukee. And she was like, all right, cool. So she's just looking up stuff, what to do in Milwaukee. So she's like sending me stuff like, oh, maybe we can do this, or maybe we can go do that. And I'm just like, yeah, like, just let me know. Just keep looking up stuff in Milwaukee. So we went, and we parked, and I was just like, all right, I'm gonna walk your aunt up real quick. And she was like, okay, that's fine. And then we got out the car, and I was like, Taylor, she grabbed the sign that she made, and she was like, Aubree, hold this up real quick, like, I want to see the sign. And she was holding it up, and we took like a picture of her, video of her, and then we were like, all right, like, turn the sign around and read it. And then she read it, and she was just like, wait, she was like, TT's going to a Paramore concert? And I was like, no, you're going to a Paramore concert. And she was just like, no, no. And I was like, yeah, whose face is that on the side of this truck? And we looked, and it was the Good Die Young truck, and it was Haley. And like, if you look at the video and stuff, she was just like super excited. So I was just like, we went, and I was just like, yeah, like, we met up with my homie, and I was just like, yeah, like, this is Uncle Brandon now. Like, you better tell him, Uncle Brandon, like, thank you, Uncle Brandon, for like surprising me with the tickets. So we took a picture in front of the van, because I was like, hey, like, I always joke with her and call Haley her mom. Like, I always say that's your real mom. So I was just like,
Real
hey, like,
sneaky
you
way of pretending that Haley Williams is your wife there,
right.
Chris.
I know, right? So I'm just like, every time I mess with Aubree, I'll be like, yeah, your mom. And then she'll be like, okay. I'm like, no, like, your real mom. And she was like, oh, Haley. I'm like, yeah. So like, I was like, she got to keep touring. So like, I just keep custody of you, type of thing. But that's our little inside joke. But so yeah, we took a picture in front of the truck, and I was like, and I posted up on Twitter. I was just like, hey, like, this is, us taking a picture, because like, I had to make sure she got a picture with Haley and stuff like that. And we went in, we got our tickets, and we sat down, and we just enjoyed the show. Like, on our way up the escalator, Aubree like leaned over to me, and she was just like, I'm gonna remember this day forever. And I was like, that's what I do it for. Like, I don't do it for anything else. Like, I don't do it for social media, none of that. But I was just like, yeah, like, I'm gonna remember this day too. So we just went in, and we're enjoying the show. And then I know, like, during Ms. Biz, like, they pulled somebody up. So like, obviously she had the sign. So she was like, the whole time she kept holding her sign up, and she was like, I think we're too far away. Like, I don't know if she's gonna see us. And I was just like, well, anytime that they stop the song and they talking, like, we're just gonna hold it up. So we're just doing this the whole time. I didn't expect anything. Like, none of this was planned, So like, even my homie was just like, I didn't do any of that. Like, that was all y'all, because it started being viral, like, on Twitter, like, my posts. and we sitting there, and she stopped during Ms. Biz, and she started talking about father and the daughter being at the concert, and I'm just like, nah, like she's not talking about me, obviously. And then she was like,
It went
yeah,
from Aubree being nah to you being nah so
yeah,
fast.
yeah. I was just like, nah, that's not happening right now. And she was like, yeah, that beautiful little black baby and beautiful little thing. And I'm like, nah, she's not talking about us. And then she was like, she had a sign that said this her first Paramore show. They were standing in front of the Good Die Young truck. And I was just like, nah, she's definitely not talking about us. She has to be talking about somebody else. And like Taylor, my sister, she looked at me because I was like texting and like you just on the phone throughout the show. So she thought I knew this was happening. And she was like, wait, she was like, you had no idea. And then I looked at her and she was like, the pure shock on your face. I could tell that you had no idea none of this was about to happen. And I was just like, no, like I didn't. So yeah, she called us out, brought us up on stage, and Aubree was like, it was funny because I literally right before Misery Business started, like I told Aubree, I was just like, hey, like, here's the lyrics to the song. Like, you remember the lyrics, you never know. Like, maybe we'll get pulled up on stage, just like joking type of thing. And I was just like, man, like, that would be crazy if you get pulled up on stage. Like, imagine going back to school and telling your friends that you were on stage with Haley Williams. And again, didn't know all of this was gonna happen. So we went on stage. Thank God that she froze up and couldn't speak, because I know if she could speak, she would have threw me right under the bus. So shout out to Stage Fright for that one. Yeah. She got to hug Haley. I got to hug Haley. She's so tiny and so adorable. And then I was just like, the way that she just like treated Aubree and how nervous she was, and she just like was so good with Aubree. And I was just like, man, like I still don't believe that it happened most of the time. And I'm like, every time like I'll go and watch the videos, I just like, it's so surreal to me. And I'm just like, there's no way that that really happened, but it really happened.
What's crazy about that moment is that because Aubree had no idea that that was going to be happening, she just wore the Meet Me at the Altar shirt like completely by accident. Which
Yeah.
your moment that completely happened by accident because of you surprising your daughter, you not only got her on stage with Paramore, you got her to meet Me at the Altar, as well as getting Meet Me at the Altar acknowledged by Paramore.
Yeah. So see, look, so funny story. So I'm like, I tell people like I know a lot of people because of the fact that I've been doing photography for so long. So funny enough, I met Edith from Meet Me at the Altar probably in like 2017 or something. And I was on tour. We were in Atlanta, and this was back in the day when she used to I think she had her own like YouTube channel, and she used to interview bands and stuff like that. If somebody finds it, I'm sorry, Edith, for putting your business out there, but she was so adorable. But
Definitely
that's
not
where
writing that down in case I ever
right.
get to interview Me at the Altar as the bit.
Yeah.
Definitely not writing down have Edith react to her old interviews.
Oh, absolutely. So she was like, I knew her from that. And so when she first started her band and stuff, I was just like, oh, like that's super dope. And then I showed Aubree them over the summer, or like I know it was like earlier that year, and she was like, she was listening to the music, and she was like, oh, I was like, do you like this? And she was like, yeah, like that's super like good, like I like this. And I was like, oh, like these are my homies. And Aubree was like, what are you talking about? Because she always cracks jokes about like me like doing photography and like being Kodak Chris and stuff. So she's like, what are you talking about? These are your homies. You say everybody is your homies. I was like, because they are. And she was like, you don't know them. And I was like, what? And she was like, you don't know them. So I hit up Edith, and I was just like, hey, Edith, what's up? Uh, I just showed Aubree your band. She's in love with y'all. This is and that. So Edith was like, oh yeah, well, we got some new tracks coming out. And she sent me the new track for Aubree to listen to. And Aubree was like, there's no way that this person just sent you their new music. And I was just like, what do you think I've been doing for like the last 5-6 years, Aubree? Do you think I just been playing out here? So it was one of those things, like she just got super obsessed with them. and we ended up going to the Meet Me at the Altar concert, and she got to meet Me at the Altar the first time, and that was like her first like rock concert. Took her, like, gave it a whole experience. Like, she got to hang out in the green room. She got to be on stage with them, like, while they played. This was at Sub T. And she got to be on stage with them what they played. And then after the concert, we went and got Demo's pizza. Like, she was just a true pop punk princess that night. So after that, like, she had the merch and stuff. And she just wore her Daisy Grenade shirt the other day too, because she met Daisy Grenade. And she was like,
Nice.
"Oh, I think I'm gonna wear this to sleep." And I was just like, just think she the coolest person in the world. So yeah, so when I was like, "Aubree, what you gonna wear?" Because she didn't have any Paramore merch. And she was just like, "Oh, like, I don't know, like, I want to wear something cool." And I was like, "Well, wear your Meet Me at the Altar shirt." And she was like, "Yeah," she was like, "I'm gonna wear it and I'm gonna tie it up and like I'm gonna go to the rock concert." And the fact that she acknowledged Meet Me at the Altar is so crazy. And as soon as we got back to the seat, I like look at my phone and Edith texted me and she was just like, "Hey, did Aubree just get off stage with Haley?" And I was just like, "Yeah, she did." And she was like, "Yeah, because I just got a text from like our manager, and he was like, 'Yo, this little girl was just on stage with a Meet Me at the Altar shirt at the Paramore concert.'" And I was like, and Edith saw like the pictures of her in the shirt before the concert. So it was just like such a full circle moment. And I was just like, yeah, now I'm just like Paramore and Meet Me at the Altar tour when.
Literally, when it would be the
Yeah.
perfect, like, slap Linda Linda's on there, have it be just like the full tour. It would be amazing. I remember like the night that show happened, like I saw like just immediately like my entire timeline was just Aubree, not even just you retweeting shit, but just like my entire timeline was that. I texted Maud, I texted Allie, I texted like a bunch of my other friends who like I knew from back in Massachusetts. Like, it was just the coolest moment to see
Oh man.
like the ultimate dad move being pulled off by you. It was the craziest thing in the world. Chris, thank you so much for being on the Cuddlepunk podcast. Where can people find you as though they don't already know?
You can follow me on all social media platforms at the Kodak Chris. So that's on Twitter and Instagram. If you follow me on Twitter, I'm sorry now, I talk a lot of shit. And also if you want to listen and learn more about photography and hear me and the homie Autumn talk some shit about photography and kick it with some guests, we have our first guest interview coming out Thursday, another one coming out next week. So we interviewing other photographers and stuff like that. You can follow us at the Shot for Shot Pod and on all social media platforms, TikTok, Instagram, all the whole 9 yards, even YouTube and stuff like that. So yeah, that's it. That's where you can find me.
You can find me at Veronika Vexed on basically every social media platform. If you want to find more of Kodak, Chris's stuff, you can find all of that at the link in the description below. The logo for the Cuddlepunk podcast is designed by Lauren Young. The theme song for the Cuddlepunk podcast is Lose a Turn by Maudify. You can find all of her stuff in the description down below. If you want to support the show, you can pledge to the Cuddlepunk podcast on Patreon, patreon.com/the Cuddlepunk podcast. Chris, thank you so much for being here. This has been amazing.
Thank you for having me. It's been good.